Catherine, my biggest concern right now is the way people have sold this, what the governor's trying to do and how it's come about using a unfortunate incident like it came about. And now we have this flurry to try to get something through legislation now. What's your take on it, and how can we fight it?
So what the governor is trying to do is to do something that will be used as a weapon against the honest people. This is an inversion, and it cannot be tolerated. First of all, it's unconstitutional. But second of all, you have to understand how dangerous our situation is. And it's what I tried to explain in the newest post I just wrote on the Second Amendment. We have a whole world of real estate interests and other, and central bank interests that are looking to take away our freedoms, our health freedoms, our financial transaction freedoms, and they can't move in and do that unless they can take away the guns. Now, there's no way the governor can say, okay, well, I want to tear up the Constitution and destroy the Second Amendment. But what they can do is you can come up with red flag laws. They can then be weaponized against the honest people and anyone they want to move in on. I mean, we have the CEO of JP Morgan Chase saying that not-for-profits and businesses should be able to exercise eminent domain to take people's property for climate change.
Right.
Okay, so you have to see the real war here. The real war is not, that they're killers abroad who need their guns taken away. What is abroad is coming up with a generic definition of who can have their gun taken away that will be weaponized, as all things like this have been weaponized by, the powers that be. So, this is a very dangerous weapon in the hands of the government. And citizens can, if we want the honest citizens of this country to be safe, you cannot do this. What I describe in my article is we literally have drug cartels who are arrayed against us, and there's a balance of power because we have guns and they have guns, and they know not to mess with us. You take away our guns, and you know something? It's 24 hours. The Army's there. They're in the trenches. Their guns are pointed at our heads. So, if you want to own real estate, if you want to have financial freedom, if you want to have healthcare freedom, you better fight this right now. Now, I can understand why the governor thinks he's cornered, but the only way the governor can get out of the corner if the citizens say, "No way, Jose," and that's what we've got to do. We've got to do it right now. You've got to. You can't let them chip away at this. Because if they chip away at it, they will burst the dam.
I think we see a lot of moderate Republicans jumping on the bandwagon with the governor. And I was looking through the document, or a summary of the document, and the one thing that jumped out at me is if authorities deem someone dangerous, then they can actually confiscate guns and hold the guns for a period of time from that person. That opens a can of worms that nobody wants to go down. I mean, it's a
huge can of worms, and it's a can of worms because we've seen what the FBI did during Fast and Furious. We've seen the FBI try and set people up as terrorists. We've seen, I litigated and dealt with the FBI and the Department of Justice for 11 years straight. We know what these people can do. Now, here's why it's ridiculous. If you say, well, these people are dangerous, so they can't have a gun, really? Well, they can have a car, they can have a bow and arrow, they can have knives, they can have, if they can have poisons, they can have thousands of ways of killing people. So, what's so special about guns? It doesn't make sense. If you think somebody is a killer and is going to run around and kill people, then, that needs to be dealt with, but you don't deal with it by taking away their guns. You deal with it by dealing with the people. The problem is not guns. The problem is, people who've been given massive amounts of drugs or, other things.
Right. One thing that came to my mind was who determines this? They say authorities. Well, who? Is it a police officer? Is it a sheriff? It's not defined that I can tell. And then the term dangerous. Well,
it's totally nebulous. Totally nebulous.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm considered dangerous. I'm a white male Christian. And I would be considered right-wing because I believe in the Second Amendment. So they can classify me as dangerous.
Of course.
They can come and take my gun.
Right. But this is, you have a wonderful world of moderate Republicans who are good, hardworking people, and they just don't want to believe that the people who run Wall Street in Washington are this evil. But I assure you, the last thing you want to do is create a way for psychopaths to be able to declare you dangerous and then take away your firearms, because those psychopaths can make a lot of money taking your real estate and taking away your healthcare freedom rights and your financial transaction rights. So don't, if you depend on Social Security as an income, you do not want to agree to this.
Yeah.
Because they're coming after your money, and they're coming after your assets, and they're coming after your kids. So understand what this is about. And they can't just tear up the Constitution. So they're going to try and chip away at it. And this is just a chip. This has nothing to do, if there's one thing this won't do, this will not improve the balance of power for the honest people. It's going to give the criminals an incredible edge against us.
Yeah. And as this is built up to this point, across the nation, we see a lot of different states trying to look at this, and of course the push nationally for national gun control. It's been ongoing, but all these incidents that we see popping up now, just this past week, I think in DC there was a shooting. Well, DC has some of the strictest gun laws in the country.
If you want to stop all these shootings, I would say cut the CIA and FBI budget by 50%. That's what I would do, to be perfectly blunt. But, I'll be honest, I was a partner and member of a board of directors of a major Wall Street firm. And then I was assistant secretary of housing in the Bush administration. And then I dealt for, more than a decade dealing with the Department of Justice and the FBI. And when I left Washington, Dave, I said, if there is one thing to fight for and die for, it is the Second Amendment. And because let me tell you something, we have a balance of power in this country. You let them chip away at our gun laws and we lose that balance of power. And when you lose that balance of power, you're not talking about shifting, just local crime safety. You're talking about shifting real estate. You're talking about shifting assets. When the World Economic Forum says it's 2030, you have no assets and you're happy, what they mean is after we got the gun laws removed, we took your assets and now you're mind controlled.
Well,
seriously, that's what they're saying.
Absolutely. And just looking at this local issue here in Tennessee, we're a red state, but there's so many other red states that are going to be under pressure. If let's say something were to happen in Tennessee past this, then other red states are going to follow suit and try to push it through. The liberal side will. And it's important for us to win this local battle here in Tennessee.
Right.
And
absolutely.
I bring this to this local area and our representatives. I don't know how they stand on this, and we're going to have to reach out.
I will tell you, I feel tremendous empathy and sympathy with the governor and the Tennessee legislatures, because the pressure that's being brought to bear on them, I've had that pressure brought to bear. I've seen cabinet secretaries blackmailed. I've had my family or my life threatened. I know what it's like to have that kind of pressure. But something, this is one where we're going to have to stand up, and what we can do to help the governor and the legislators is say with a resounding no, because that's, if you're a governor and you can turn to, I call it Spectre. Remember Spectre in the James Bond movie? You can turn to Spectre and say, I can't make him do it. I just can't make him do it, because there's too much, so give the governor a little backbone by pushing back and saying, absolutely not.
Absolutely not. And we've got your back.
We've got your back. Right. Because they're in a corner. We got to get them out of the corner. It's our job to get them out of the corner.
Our last election here in this county, I think went 78% conservative. And then the state overall, I think was probably around 70%. So I think the general population, if you go by that, would take a stand for the Second Amendment. And you would think that our representatives would automatically start pushing back just on that fact alone.
Well, it's funny because, I've had so many friends and subscribers move to Tennessee in the last 5 years. You do this, they're headed to Utah or Idaho or someplace else. I mean, Tennessee has enjoyed for the last 5 to 10 years this incredible blessing of people who want to live in Tennessee. Don't take away the reasons for that blessing.
What's your suggestion just to a normal citizen that's sitting at home right now worried about their right to bear arms, their Second Amendment right? What would you
if you're a Tennessee citizen, you need to write to your state representative, you need to write to your state legislature. legislator and your senator, and you need to write to the governor's office, and you need to make it very clear this is absolutely unacceptable.
Well, to make that easier, I'm going to put that in the comments so that you'll have those addresses to our
Okay.
two representatives and to the governor's office.
Yep.
That way you can go right there and
Yeah, and
get the
don't be
address.
afraid to call them. Call them.
Yeah.
Get the staff on the phone and say, no, 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 no. And don't be afraid to call your congressman and senator federally and say, tell them to tell the governor, we're not going to vote Republican for any of you guys ever again if you do this, because you're
Yeah.
not a Republican if you do this.
Exactly. And there are other people that will step up and take their place easy.
Right. And the next time any newspaper in Tennessee, argues that this ought to be supported, they just need an education. Send them a link to my article.
Yeah, it's an awesome article. I'm going to post it on Shelbyville Now and Patriot Network as well, so people can see that. But it's on our group now, the conservative group that we have locally, and it's got a lot of views and a lot of comments. So I'm going to spread that around. Was it in your story that talked about the Japanese officer that said we don't want to go fight, or was it somewhere else? We don't want to go fight.
Yeah. It's attributed. There's great controversy about whether he really said it, but it's attributed to the Yamamoto, the admiral that led Pearl Harbor.
Right.
And it was said that he said to the emperor, we can't invade the United States because if we do, there'll be a rifle behind every blade of grass.
Yeah, that's the quote. Was that in your article? I think it
Yeah,
was.
that's the quote. And what I have to tell you is this is not just an issue of our personal and family security. This is an issue of national security.
Absolutely, because there's so many people that have that exercise that right. I forget the amount of guns that are out there, but there are people. Well, this state, there's probably more guns than there are people. I don't know the exact number, but it is our national defense. That's our last line also.
I know. And, all I can tell you is I know the bankers because they were my partners and I worked, with them and for them. And if you take away the guns, they're going to do, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. They are going to move in and they are going to take your assets. And in cases, they're going to take your kids.
Yeah, I think the CBDC argument and that possibility that looms out there that we've talked about before ties to this as well.
Absolutely.
Because it rolls in and they say you got to surrender your guns or we're shutting you off.
Well, I don't know if you've listened to any of the interviews I've done with John Titus for the last couple of years, but I keep telling him, look, because Chairman Powell said he's going to go for legislation to do the CBDCs. And the question is always, why is Powell slow walking it? And I say, he's not going to go for that legislation or try to get serious to do this until he's got the guns in. And if you're going to get the guns in, you've got to get Tennessee. Tennessee is going to be high on your list. So,
yes.
We are at the tip of the spear here. And if you want to be a free person in 10 years, we got to win this fight.
Absolutely. I keep saying it. We are ground zero.
Yep.
A lot of this is going to be tested. So here we are. We're on the battlefield, and it's time for citizens to step up and take action.
Yeah. Now is people are real busy, Dave, and I understand, and they're busy trying to make ends meet, and I totally understand. But this is one where, it takes maybe 30 minutes to write a note to your senator and your representative and to call them and say, no, 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 no. That's a good investment.
Absolutely, it is. Otherwise, they won't be busy anymore. We won't have anything to be busy with.
And I just want to say something to the county commissioners and the political leaders. I know, they try, God love them, my old partners, they try and make it sound reasonable. Well, it's just for dangerous people. And it's, it's just for this. And it's just, and any moderate person, you're not dealing with moderate people. You're dealing with people who are coming to take your stuff. Yeah. Right? This is a war. These are not nice people. This is a war, and either you win that war or you're going to be a slave.
We have no other option. No other option.
We have no other option. This is a war. You cannot trust your enemy, and you cannot, nobody ever remained free by complying with tyranny.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, get the governor out of the corner. Help the governor get out of the corner.
Yeah, he's definitely got himself boxed in there now, but we're going to come out fighting. There's no doubt. there's going to be a war taking place here. not that type of war, but it's going to be a battle, and we'll win.
Well, we're going to win. We're going to win.